Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm your host, Jeff Hansen. As always, the show is brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com and by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Thank you for your support of the Daily Dose so far. It means the world to me. Every subscriber, all of your interactions, your likes, your comments, not only have they meant the world to me, they've impressed the YouTube algorithm, and that's the goal, to impress the algo. So thank you for your support in the past so far, and thank you in advance for your support in the future. If you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a second of the action of what we've got going on here at the Daily Dose. A question I've been asked a ton over the last few weeks, dozens of times. Because of BYU's success in the transfer portal, should BYU change their high school recruiting strategy? The question makes a lot of sense. When you look at who BYU has added, they've added 3 transfer portal 4-stars. The overall rating of the scholarship players in the portal is 87.38. That would be the highest average rating for a recruiting class that BYU has ever had. They're having, for BYU, an unprecedented level of success in getting talent out of the portal and into their roster. That's huge. And when you look at that, of course, you're going to have a tendency to say, well, maybe this is what they should do all the time. It seems to be working. My answer to that question, however, is a pretty resounding no. There is a ton of risk that would come with changing your high school recruiting strategy in the name of going all in on the transfer portal. Let's talk about it a little bit. Why don't I think they should do that? One, we don't know what the transfer portal is going to look like tomorrow. NIL has changed the game. There's potentially legislation that could come and change the NIL game even more. It could come any day. We have no idea what the NCAA is pushing for. We have no idea what the federal government or local state governments are going to do. There's a lot of unknowns from an organizational standpoint that BYU has zero control over. And depending on what legislation comes through or what not new kind of rule comes through with immediate eligibility, BYU's transfer portal strategy could dramatically change. Let's pretend that in the name of curtailing some of these, the major exoduses out of existing rosters and into the portal, the NCAA says, you know what, we're going to back off on this immediate eligibility thing. Well, if BYU is severing ties with some of their high school recruiting ranks or totally abandoning that strategy, they could be left holding the bag. So there's a lot of factors that I think are still pretty fluid from a transfer portal standpoint that BYU has zero control over until there is a little bit more concrete action and knowledge of exactly what the future is going to look like. I don't think you can totally abandon what you're doing on the high school front. Number 2, we don't know at what point players are going to look at this and say, maybe transferring is not right for me. In each of the last 2 years, thousands of players have hit the transfer portal. And in each of the last 2 years, more than half of those players have not found a new home on the other side of the transfer portal. Conventional wisdom says that eventually players are going to look at that and go, I don't know, the odds aren't really in my favor. Maybe I'll stay home where I'm at. As a result, BYU would not know on any given year if there's going to be a Keaton Slovis available in the portal or an Aiden Robbins who's available in the portal. So it's difficult to say we're going to gamble until the December portal window after the season, after signing day is getting close, and that's when we're going to start to recruit our quarterback of the future, for example. That's a gamble. Sometimes that gamble pays off, right? Sometimes you put that chip on the red 8 and it hits and you are living large. But a lot of the time it doesn't hit the red 8 and you're a little bit scared. So that's a big gamble that I don't think BYU should take, at least at a strategic level yet. Now, having said all of that, there are factors, of course, that can change with high school recruiting. First and foremost, if the portal is open and it doesn't change and you get to that December window and you have some scholarship capital, of course, attack the portal the same way BYU has. If it forces you to have to push guys through your program a little bit more so that you could free up scholarship capital to get guys out of the portal, of course, you have to do that. Those are transfer portal strategies that should supplement the high school recruiting strategy, not replace the high school recruiting strategy. Now, the one asterisk to my resounding no, if BYU works through their priority list, if they miss on their, quarterback A, B, and C, and they get to quarterback D, well, maybe at that point it's worth the risk. There's still risk, but maybe it's worth the risk to say, hey, instead of moving on to our 4th or 5th priority out of high school, let's just gamble and see what comes out of the portal. I think that you can do that. I think BYU doesn't have to take as many flyers out of high school, as many developmental projects out of high school, because they can turn around and get equal or better talent out of the transfer portal. But when it comes to their top guys, to the Reiner Swansons, to the Jackson Bowers, to the Ciale Aceras, you're not going to just say no to those guys, or you're not going to slow play those guys in the name of going portaling. That's just not the way that it should work. And so that's why my answer is always a no. I don't think that the transfer portal should change BYU's high school recruiting strategy. With that one exception of, as BYU gets down their priority list, then sure, I think it's probably a safer gamble at that point. The transfer portal's been awesome. It's been awesome for BYU. It's been awesome for BYU fans. And for the most part, I think it's been pretty productive for players. They're able to get into the portal and try to find new homes. It's unfortunate for the guys who don't, but it's been, I think, largely successful. I think it stands to reason that the portal won't change dramatically, but until it is set in stone that it won't change dramatically, BYU's high school recruiting strategy needs to stay largely the same, because that will continue to be the bread and butter and the foundation of BYU's rosters as they head into the Big 12 Conference. Thank you so much for your support of the Daily Dose. Until next time, give them hell.